Sometimes it can seem like our whole world is turned upside down, partly due to technology. Now, it used to be that when we had a job that required us to use computers, that was enough. But now it seems like it's everywhere, whether we want it to be or not. We can see that we have laptops and desktops, of course, but then again, we also have computers that run our cars and our thermostats, medical devices, even the elevators and the power grids. It seems like we can't get away from it. Well, I'm here to kind of help you turn your world right side up again. My name's Erin Olson, and since founding my company, PC Keys Technology Solutions, almost 15 years ago, I've been trying to get people excited about what technology can offer. When we offer technology training, it's not only to introduce people to what the possibilities are, but also to take away that fear, because honestly, a lot of people do get afraid about what if I do something the wrong way. Well, in this course, Total Training's PC Fundamentals, we're going to start you from the ground up. We're going to introduce you to what all of those PC parts are. We'll use lots of pictures, lots of explanations and analogies so it'll be easy to understand in real language. Then we'll get you on the computer. We'll have you logging on, logging off, creating files, saving things, finding things, even doing some printing and some maintenance. So come on along and get ready to start your journey into the wonderful world of technology. I know it can be a little disconcerting sometimes to take on something new, in this case learning about computers and technology, and not really knowing exactly what to expect. One of the common worries is it going to be too advanced, too fast, or too technical? Well, to put your mind at ease, let's start off by talking about what this course is not about. This course is not going to be about confusing technobabble terminology. Yes, there's an awful lot of it that's involved with technology, and some people can throw it around kind of like it's very easy to do, but it can be very confusing as well. So in this course, we'll give you just enough terminology to make you understand what you need to understand, but I'll always be sure to define it before I use it or as I use it. This course is also not about advanced technical concepts that you can't understand or apply. If you can't understand it or you don't know how you're going to use it, it really doesn't make sense to talk to you about it. So anytime we talk about these types of concepts, I'm going to try to make it applicable to what you can understand and how you'll be able to use it in your real world. It's not about the presentation of topics that go too fast to understand. I know one of the issues that technical people have is because it makes sense to them, they go 50 miles an hour and they lose you in the first few seconds. That's not going to happen here. We're also not going to talk about specific skills on using particular computers, hardware, or software. This is an introductory class, and it's intended to teach you things about every type of personal computer or PC that you may want to use, but not a specific computer model or a particular piece of hardware or a particular kind of software. Those are things that you can take on after this class. So what is this course about? Well, it's an introduction to personal computers or PCs. Often you'll hear the term PC, and that just means personal computer. Now, technically that means a Windows computer as opposed to a Mac or an Apple computer, but that's again getting a little bit too fine-grained for what we want to talk about. So for now, we'll use personal computer and PC interchangeably. We're going to use easy-to-understand terminology, and as I promised, I'll be sure to define those and give you some examples about how to use it when I give you terms that you may not have heard before. Along those lines, I also like to work with analogies and examples. If you can relate something technical to something that you understand and know in the real world, it helps you to remember it and also to understand it. And of course, we're going to do all of this in a relaxed way. Relaxed pace, easy to follow, not too fast, not too slow. And also we'll have it in a little bit of a fun, lighthearted approach. I think that sometimes we can be way too serious, and this is not one of those times. So if you're ready to take a lighthearted approach to something that you'll be able to understand and apply immediately, you're in the right place. Specifically, what we want you to learn in this course is how to identify computer components and some of that terminology. When you do that, you'll be able to understand the role of hardware, operating systems, software, and networks. Now don't panic because of course we're going to go over what all of those terms mean in just a little bit. We want you to be able to use and adjust the keyboard and mouse so that it works the way that you want it to. And of course you'll need to be able to start, log on, log off, and shut down a computer correctly. When we get into the specifics, you'll learn how to navigate, use, and customize the Windows desktop, and work with Windows, folders, files, software, and printers. All the basic components of a computer system. I'm also going to show you how to use some universal techniques like saving files and using cut, copy, and paste. These are things that, again, you'll be able to use on any system that you use, whether for work or for play. Along those lines, we'll show you how to find programs and files, because once they're in the computer, sometimes they can be a little bit difficult, but there's some tools that you can use to be able to find the things that you need. And lastly, we'll show you how to perform some basic computer maintenance to ensure that your computer continues to operate the way that it needs to so that it works the way that you want it to, effectively and efficiently. So as we get into the realm of computers and how you're going to use them, the question may come up, well, where do we find computers in society? Well, the answer, of course, is almost everywhere. Now, many of you are taking this class because you want to have a PC at home, or maybe you need to use one in your office. Those are kind of givens. People usually know that. As we look around, though, we also see that computers are on airports and buses and trains. We can see them in restaurants. They use them in banks and even in our doctor's office, and sometimes even at the grocery store. Basically, everywhere we go these days, there's a computer probably sitting somewhere on a counter or a desk. But sometimes computers are also in places that we haven't really thought of because computers are becoming more popular, more efficient, and also smaller. Computers are now found in things like cell phones. They're in your television set and your thermostat. If you have a programmable thermostat that changes the temperature based on the time of day or the day of the week, that's a computer at work. They can be in your appliances, in medical devices, running your car engine, and even on the locks of doors of commercial buildings. So once you kind of get interested in what computers are and understand how they work, I think you'll see that really they are found almost everywhere, in some places you didn't even consider before. As far as we're concerned, I always want to make things simple. I know that technology and computers can be very complicated. It can take years to get really good at knowing particular systems or how to put them together or fix them. That's not our purpose. We want to keep it simple. So in doing that, we're going to start off with the 3 basic types of components in every computer system. The first type of component is known as hardware. Hardware is anything that you can touch, the equipment that you have. That can include things like the keyboard, the mouse, the printer, or a web camera. The second component is known as the operating system. We'll talk more about all of these things, but for now, just know that an operating system is something like Microsoft Windows, Linux, or the Mac operating system. The third component is known as software. This can also be called a program or an application. This is actually what does useful stuff, like writing a letter or performing calculations, showing a video, sending and receiving email. But it's these 3 components as they work together that actually make a usable computer system. Hardware, operating system, and software are required to make a computer do useful things, at least in the way that we're used to thinking of them. And I might even throw in a 4th component, and that would be you. You are the user. For our purposes, a computer doesn't do much just sitting on its own. It needs interaction with us in order to send an email or compose a letter. So hardware, operating systems, and software are the things we're going to focus on for the first part of this course. Let's start off talking a little bit more about some basic hardware categories. Now I know things can get very difficult very quickly, so let's keep it very generic and very simple. Let's start with the concept of something like in and out. At its simplest, hardware are things that receive input or those things that produce output from a computer. So there we go, in and out. Input is something that collects or lets information into the computer. This can be something like a keyboard, a mouse, or a microphone. You type onto the keyboard and it puts letters into the system. You have a microphone and you speak into it, and that can either record your voice, or sometimes computers can recognize voice commands and you can actually make the computer do something by having microphone input. Of course, the opposite is also true. We also have output devices or output hardware. These are things that send or distribute information from the computer. So a monitor can show us information, maybe a message where the computer is trying to tell us there's a problem or that we need to do something else. A printer is an output device that creates hard copies. So instead of looking at something electronically on a screen, the printer lets the output come in a piece of paper that we can then carry around, fold up, or mail off. And kind of the opposite of a microphone, a computer speaker can be an output device that lets us hear information, either things that we recorded earlier or maybe a sound letting us know that the computer has a problem. So when we talk about hardware, the first of the 3 basic components, hardware at its simplest is going to either be an input or an output device. Sometimes devices, though, actually can do both things. Some devices can be both an input and an output device. For example, a hard drive can collect information by allowing you to save a file to it. That's inputting information. But a hard drive can also be an output device by providing data that was saved to it an earlier time. So if I saved a file last week and now I want to go retrieve that file, the process of retrieving it is an output. Another example would be a modem, and we'll talk more about modems when we talk about networks and the internet. But a modem can collect data from the internet and show it to us as a web page. And then it can send data that we type into and submit as a form on the same web page. So when it's collecting information from the internet, it's getting input. When we type information into a web page, the keyboard is also inputting information. And then when we send that information, the modem is acting as an output device, outputting information from our form to some other place on the internet. So how do we bring all of these concepts together? Well, when you combine hardware, operating systems, and software, that's when you get a computer system that's functional. There are literally thousands, if not an unlimited number of possible configurations of hardware, operating systems, and software. So don't try to memorize it all. The key to all of this is to know what individual components are, know what the commonalities are, and then you can apply them to any unique configuration that you may run into. Because a system that you actually use at work may be a little bit different from the one that you use at home. But there will be more similarities than there are differences, I promise. In general, you're going to have only one operating system on each computer. But you're going to have, and probably will have, many different pieces of hardware and many different programs on the computer. So, for what we consider to be a single computer, we'll have one operating system, multiple pieces of hardware, multiple pieces of software, all three that combine together to give us the computer system that we sit down and work at.